So we went and visited another farm while we were in Japan. This time we were seeing Mr. Yamaguchi. What makes him really different, I think, is his approach. He is so committed to organic agriculture. We brought our matcha kit with us, and it was really moving for us to be able to have that experience with him, to have a tea farmer tasting his own creation for the first time in the field that grew it was really special. Welcome to JagaVision. I'm Jared Nyberg, your host. I am co-owner of JagaSilk. I'm just going to talk a little bit today about an awesome trip we just took where we got to visit a couple farms, one of which was Yamaguchi's. So Mr. Yamaguchi has a wonderful operation in place. Mr. Yamaguchi, we've only met virtually. I've had him on JagaVision a number of times. We have a really awesome guest today. His name is, we call him Yamaguchi-san.
Hi,
He's really focused on organic production.
I'm a tea farmer from Japan in Uji.
But we met during the pandemic. What makes him really different, I think, is his approach. He is so committed to organic agriculture, and he's somewhat of a history nerd. So he combines this commitment to sort of environmental sustainability with trying to sort of explore and recover old production techniques.
東側の朝日は浴びるけど、こう西日こっちの今日当たると当たらなくなるっていう、そういうなんかこう理想的な形をしてるんですけど、そういう場所がすごく育ちがいいというかいいのができるっていうのでここはね、多分そういう。
あ、ここですか。
そうそう場所ってこの人って場所めちゃめちゃ気にするんですよ。まあうちの親父だけかもわからないけど、ここだからすごいものすごい昔からある畑です。今やぶきたになっちゃう。やぶきたはやぶきたなんですけど、ここね、いいって言われてましたね。私、千屋さんにいる時に。香りがいい。
生えてるのがやぶきたです。育ててるのが山口さんです。His tencha production for us, he's mostly selling it to us. Like he was selling some to co-ops, but when he grows organic, he said he actually gets less money for harder work. He only does one harvest instead of two, as you need to do for your organic matchas or your tenchas. And as a result, he doesn't get the benefit of being able to do a second harvest, which you do get when you use your, fertilizers and sprays, etc.
観光とある程度近い収穫量になるんですけど、要は農薬を使ったりとかして肥料をたくさんやったりしてるところは、なんていうかな、こう要するにダメなものはものすごく良いところまで、要するに肥料と農薬を使ったらある程度まで上がるんですけど、全部落としたらもうその茶畑の元々の良さだけにある程度になるので、だから元々良かった場所でやってるんやと思います、多分。だからそんなに落ちない感じだと。だから落ちないですよ全然。落ちたら7割とか。
And he's converted so much of his tea fields to organic that we're kind of scrambling to keep up. We're like, wow, this is amazing. So he's so ahead of the game. Now, some of his teas are really, really good. Some of them I kind of have to wrap my head around. When I taste them, I'm like, okay, the smell is great, but it's like super bitter forward and I don't understand what's going on. But it's because it's really close to how it should taste before there's any sort of intervention. The bitters are actually in there, compounds that are existing on purpose to prevent animals from eating the leaves. So the plant will actually, if it gets damaged a bit from bug bites, etc., will release, it will actually start creating more, you'll get more caffeine in the leaves because the caffeine is there to provide it's like a deterrent. It creates a bitterness in the leaf. So the nakabata I think we got from him, we were actually asking lots of questions about that because we were trying to understand why is this one in particular so bitter. There's some really fantastic ones. The Okumidori ni no Tani from him is just a showstopper every year. It's such a great selection. And we got to visit where he's growing those tea leaves. We got to visit the Kuromamezaka farm. We got to visit many of these. He sends us 9 different fields growing Yabukita, the same cultivar. And then there's one field growing Okumidori, a different cultivar. This is Okumidori ni no Tani. And behind is Yabukita ni no Tani. So right back there, reclaimed Zairaishu that was a jungle, all in the Ninotani area by this guy. Yamaguchi is somewhat of an odd character. He's a city hall worker full-time, and then he does tea. His family does tea. His father grows tea, but his father told him, you're not going to do tea. This is not a business that's gonna be sustainable for you and your family. But Yamaguchi loves it, and he's trying to keep it alive because his ancestry goes way back to the creator of Sencha, which is amazing. And he's just so personally invested and interested.
これなんでこれ言えるかってそのさっき言ったみたいに火が当たってこう乾燥するとやっぱりこう味が良くなくなるってことが分かったので、もうこういうのを冬の間にいっぱい入れて守るんですよ土地を。
He's just doing this all the time in when he's not at work, and he's quite the hobbyist. He is so creative, and we're really lucky to work with him. And he says the same to us. He says he's lucky to work with us because we're willing to step up and buy whatever we can from his transition when he's transitioning all these fields wherever he can, whenever he can, to organic.
中畑です。そうですね。ここはもうめっちゃ日当たりがいいところで、作業とかしやすいというか、ちょっとなんか日が当たりやすい分、こう乾燥しやすいというか、そういう場所でもあって、あとは茶抜きが古い。50年以上経っているというのがありまして、はい。ちょっと植え替えたいなと思ってるんですけど。次はヤブキタにするんですか？違う品種にするんですか？違う。ヤブキタありすぎるんで他の種類にしたいな。
We were able to fly a drone around and check out his fields as well, and got to experience some of these unique environments. And we really had a nice time just making tea with him. We brought some of the teas that we'd milled here and brought to him, and we drank together. And in many cases, it was the first time that he'd had his tea. Like he was growing it, he's turning it into tencha, but he doesn't have a mill. Again, he's assesses the tencha all the time. He's an experienced tea farmer, but he doesn't necessarily have the equipment to bring it to the finish line and taste it as a product or as a tea that's ready for consumption. It was very unique to be able to, again, bring his tea back to him. So he sent it to us, we milled it, we brought it back to him, and we made it literally in the fields where those particular cultivars were grown. So we visited Kuromamezaka, for example, and we made the Yabukita Kuromamezaka in the field with Mr. Yamaguchi. It was his first time drinking it, and he really enjoyed it. He was like, wow, okay, this is really something special, and he was stoked.
だから本当は毎年作る分全部買うぐらいですよ。ああ、これはでも最近人気なんですけどね、割と。
半分避けてもらえませんか？
いやもうでもはっきり言ってほとんどを買ってくれてでもただ自分で売ってる分がちょろっとでもそれがね年々そこそこ売れてるというか一応ねなんか、毎年買ってくれる人がいるんで。
We brought our matcha kit with us, and it was really moving for us to be able to have that experience with him, to have a tea farmer tasting his own creation for the first time in the field that grew it was really special. I like to brew this one with 120 grams instead of 90 grams of water. I get a very bright flavor. As a traditional, it's good with a sweet. On its own, it's a bit aromatically intense, but it's pretty wild. I like to tell people, if you want to go on a wild ride with your matcha, get yourself one of the Yamaguchi selections. If you want a little bit of a softer like a bridge into this world, his Okumidori ni no Tani, fantastic. The other selections are, again, yeah, it's like a I don't know, Alice in Wonderland with your matcha. Yeah, that's the Kuromamezaka. So super nice aromatics. Last final takeaway though from our trip was definitely going and checking out the fields that were right near the river. You could see a really similar growing style as what we were seeing in Mandokoro. So it was like, instead of growing long hedges, they were in their own sort of areas, and that you can tell. I'm starting to notice that that's the technique for harvesting by hand. You want to be able to harvest all the way around the bush, right? Whereas when you do the long hedges, that's more ideal for when you want to use the clipping system. You're going to get way more out of one plant if you can harvest all the way around it. He did this really cool thing where he found out where one of his ancestors, I think it was Nagatani Soen, the creator of Sencha, was growing his tea fields, and he went in behind where his family has some fields, and he was able to find some trees that are easily 100, if not 200 years old. And he's been hand harvesting them and turning them into sencha. Those were really old trees. And again, he's growing them by using techniques that he's trying to recreate from what he understands were being done back in the day when sencha was invented. And then in behind that is where he has the really tall wild trees. And we were able to go and check those out and take some photos and have a really interesting time exploring.
本もだからここで多分ね200以上は絶対立ってるんですよ。だいぶ昔にだから在来種の畑。
すごい。
Uji City is often credited with being like the mecca of tea because, you know, anything grown in Kyoto in that area is called Uji-cha, and cha means tea. But Uji City proper doesn't actually produce that much. Most of the production is coming out of Wazuka and Ujitawara. So Fujioka-san, another farmer we buy from, is in Wazuka, and then we have Yamaguchi-san in Ujitawara. Yeah, great visit. Stoked to have finally met him in person. And we learned a lot, and it was great to share some of his teas with him. Means a lot if you can consider to subscribe to our channel. We have a lot of great videos with amazing guests. You click that notification button, and when our videos go live, you're aware of them. We would love to get the feedback, love to answer questions, and have that two-way dialogue. Comment on them. That also really makes a big difference.